10 years. That's how long it had been since Jennifer Kade heard his voice. David Chen, the CFO she fired in front of the entire executive team. The man whose career she destroyed with a single accusation. The man who tried to tell her the truth and she refused to listen. And now, at 9:47 p.m., on a Wednesday night, his name appeared on her phone screen. She almost didn't answer, but something, curiosity or guilt, made her press accept. Jennifer, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I have something you need to see. Something about what happened 10 years ago. Meet me tomorrow, alone, or spend the rest of your life not knowing the truth. The line went dead. Jennifer stared at her phone for 7 minutes without moving. Because if David Chen was right, if there was proof, then everything she believed about that day, about herself, about her board, was a lie. And the person she destroyed was innocent. 10 years earlier, Jennifer Kade was 38 years old and CEO of Crescent Tech, a software company she'd built from nothing in 12 years. David Chen was her CFO, brilliant, meticulous, trusted. They'd worked together for 6 years, until the audit. An internal audit discovered $4.3 million missing from operational accounts transferred to offshore entities over 18 months. Sophisticated, hidden, almost impossible to trace. The board demanded answers. Jennifer reviewed the evidence. The transfers were authorized with David's credentials, his digital signature, his access codes. It was undeniable. She called an emergency meeting the entire executive team, the board, legal counsel, and she confronted him. David, these transfers came from your accounts. Explain this. He looked at the documents. His face went pale. Jennifer, I didn't do this. Someone used my credentials. You have to believe me. But the evidence was overwhelming. The board wanted action. The lawyers recommended immediate termination to protect the company. Jennifer made the call. David, you're terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you out. If we find criminal intent, we'll press charges. He stood up slowly, looked at her with something between disbelief and heartbreak. Jennifer, please, look deeper. This isn't what it seems. But she didn't. She watched security escort him out. She held a press conference the next day, announced the termination, protected the company's reputation. David Chen's career was over. He couldn't get another CFO position. His name was poison in the industry. He disappeared from her life completely, until tonight. The next day, 2 p.m., Jennifer arrived at the address David sent, a small office building in a part of the city she never visited. David was waiting in a conference room. He looked older, tired, but his eyes were sharp. Thank you for coming. Jennifer didn't sit. I'm here. What do you want? David opened a laptop. 10 years ago, you fired me for fraud I didn't commit. I spent 3 years trying to prove my innocence. No one would listen. I lost everything. My career, my marriage, my savings. David, the evidence was fabricated. He turned the screen toward her. I hired a forensic investigator 2 years after my termination. Took me 5 years to gather this, but I have proof now. The transfers weren't made by me. They were made by someone who cloned my credentials 6 months before the audit. Jennifer looked at the screen technical logs, digital forensics, timestamps that didn't match her records. Who? David clicked to another file. Your board. Specifically, Richard Hale and Margaret Foster. They orchestrated the entire thing. David walked her through it, step by step. 6 months before the audit, Richard Hale, chairman of the board, gained access to David's credentials through a phishing attack disguised as a routine security update. He didn't steal money, he transferred Crescent Tech funds to offshore accounts controlled by entities that Richard and Margaret secretly owned. Then they waited. They let the fraud continue for 18 months, building a case, creating a trail that led directly to David. Then they triggered the internal audit. The board already had the evidence ready. David's credentials, his digital signature, his access codes. It was perfect. And when Jennifer fired David, she did exactly what they wanted. She protected the company. She protected them. And they kept the $4.3 million. But why? Jennifer asked. Why frame you? Because I was about to discover something worse. David opened another file. I'd been investigating irregularities in board expense reports. Richard and Margaret had been embezzling for years, small amounts. Spread across multiple accounts, I was 2 weeks away from bringing it to you. They needed me gone, and they needed you to be the one who did it. Jennifer sat down, because everything made sense now. After David's termination, Richard and Margaret pushed her to move quickly, to go public, to make an example. They convinced her it would protect the company's reputation, and she trusted them. Why are you showing me this now? Jennifer asked. Why not go to the authorities? David closed the laptop. Because I want you to do it. What? I want you to admit what happened publicly. I want you to tell the truth. That you fired an innocent man. That you trusted the wrong people. That your board manipulated you. Jennifer stared at him. David, if I do that, I destroy my own credibility. Everything I've built. My reputation. The company will survive, but I won't. Not without this. He leaned forward. You took everything from me, Jennifer. My career, my family, my name. You did that because you trusted your board more than you trusted me. Now you have a choice. Admit the truth and give me my life back. Or walk away and live with the lie. Jennifer looked at the evidence on the screen. She could take it. Go to the authorities quietly. Pursue charges against Richard and Margaret without admitting her mistake. Or she could do what David asked. Admit she was wrong, publicly, lose everything she'd worked for, but give him justice. What do you want me to do? David handed her a USB drive. Tomorrow, press conference. You tell the truth, all of it. That you made a mistake. That David Chen was innocent. That your board framed him. Or I release this myself and you're implicated in the cover-up. That night, Jennifer didn't sleep. She reviewed the evidence David gave her. It was all there. Undeniable. Devastating. Richard and Margaret had used her, manipulated her. Made her the weapon that destroyed an innocent man. And she let them. At 6 a.m., she made her decision. She called a press conference for 10 a.m. She didn't tell her board. When the cameras were live, when the journalists were waiting, Jennifer Kade stood at the podium, and she told the truth. 10 years ago, I terminated my CFO, David Chen, for fraud. I believed the evidence. I trusted my board. I was wrong. David Chen was innocent. He was framed by members of my own board to cover their embezzlement. I didn't investigate deeply enough. I didn't question the evidence. And I destroyed an innocent man's career because I was too proud to consider I might be wrong. The room erupted, Jennifer continued. I'm resigning as CEO of Crescent Tech effective immediately. I'm turning over all evidence to federal authorities, and I'm issuing a public apology to David Chen. She looked directly at the camera. David, you tried to tell me. I didn't listen. I'm sorry. 3 months later, Richard Hale and Margaret Foster were arrested. Federal charges, embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy. David Chen was exonerated publicly, completely. He received a settlement from Crescent Tech, enough to rebuild. Jennifer Kade never returned to the corporate world. She lost her position, her reputation, everything she'd built, but she could sleep at night. Because sometimes the truth costs everything, and sometimes that's the only price worth paying. This is Glass Floor, where every empire hides a secret beneath the surface. And sometimes the floor cracks from the weight of a lie. Subscribe and discover what lies beneath.